Welcome to Read and Think. This is where a book that I'm reading, certain phrases catch my eye and make me think, and I'm sharing with you. First up, Thomas Sowell in his Cultures and Conquests book. By the early 15th century, parliamentary records and official correspondence were written in English. This was also the first century in which members of the upper classes began to correspond with one another in English. Individual members of the Anglo-Norman aristocracy typically had multiple land holdings over which they ruled in various parts of the British Isles, so that despite their local attachments, they were to varying extents a national ruling class rather than simply regional barons. In industry, as in commerce and finance, England's early economic development owed much to foreigners, and to its own stability of government and dependability of laws which attracted foreigners. The Dutch, the Walloons, and the Flemings were among the many foreigners who brought their skills to England with them. As of 1618, there were 10,000 skilled foreign workers in London alone. Refugee groups such as Jews, Huguenots, and Flemings, all seeking respite from persecution on the continent, played key roles in England's emergence from being a backward part of Europe's economy to becoming one of its economic leaders. Between 50,000 and 100,000 Huguenots fled to Britain from France in the 17th century, particularly after revocation of the Edict of Nantes, which had previously guaranteed religious freedom to Protestants. Interestingly enough, the fact that they were national landowners and not just regional ones adds a lot of travel to their time, as well as information that comes from different parts of the country for their land holdings. So that required them to have other methods of communication, and therefore the law itself, as well as the ability to explain that to the common or lesser gentry, common people or lesser gentry, probably brought English to the forefront in many ways. You had to make people understand, and if they weren't going to learn French, then you had to actually learn English. And that makes a lot of sense in that regard. Adding to the element and momentum of English is probably the fact that you had the Dutch, Walloons, and Flemings show up in England with their skills to create and build and enact commerce. The Dutch, the Walloons, and the Flemings all have different languages from French, and they probably didn't like French. This still rages today in Belgium, where you will have the northern Flemish speakers as contrasted with the Walloons, and a difference between using their unique language there, closer related to Dutch, I believe, but versus the French south of the country. And so today they have this huge division, both geographical as well as linguistic. So they probably have a great enmity towards French, and therefore they would prefer to learn English as well. And if you have 10,000 skilled people in London at this time, where London was probably a few 100,000 people at most, then you had a significant part of the population who were highly skilled, that wanted to learn English and refused to learn French probably. So that added to the momentum of what was going on here. The other part is the Huguenots, and indeed this was a massive problem in France between Catholic France and the Protestant Huguenots. I actually visited the church there in Paris, where Saint Bartholomew, and it's called Saint Bartholomew's Massacre, I believe, where Catherine Medici, the mother of the king, actually had instigated, I believe, the massacre of these French Protestants called the Huguenots on this particular day. It was going to be the coronation, I believe, of the king, and or the marriage, excuse me, of a member of the royal family, and as a result, they started massacring these Huguenots invited to the wedding. And there were not a few of them, but 1,000. And overall in the country, I believe it approached more like a number of 30,000. So this was this part that had a huge division in France between religion. Later on, the Edict of Nantes, which allowed the Huguenots to practice, that was revoked, and therefore they were persecuted again. They went towards the western part of France, I believe near Bordeaux, and called the Venloo, I believe, which was kind of a holdout area for rebellion in France at the time. But then they also fled, notably, to England. So we could see these roiling divisions between language and culture and religion occurring right here in the vortex between the emerging England and the well-suited and advanced civilization of France. And that also probably increased some degree of the national identity of England to speak our own language rather than the French, who were seen as persecutors of fellow Protestants, as well as another country far away. And England and France have certainly had their own cataclysmic warfare over centuries and centuries. So that's one reason I think that language and culture tend to move along with their conquests.